Today, we're going to be learning about how the Republic, which you learned about in lesson 2, changed into a huge empire. As you can see in the map, the purple shows what the Republic was that started in 509 BC. And then you can see the orange as it started to expand. And this is only part of it. It's not even as large as it ever got. But today we're going to start learning about how it got to become an empire and the challenges that it did face trying to get there. Now, also in lesson 2, you learned about the plebeians and the patricians, and the power was not equal. The wealthy patricians had the control of the government, they owned the land, they had the money. And the plebeians, they were the farmers, they were your average Joe Schmoes. And of course, as you can see, there were a lot more plebeians than there were patricians, yet the patricians had all the power. So we're going to start learning about two wealthy patricians who decided that they wanted to help the plebeians a little bit. And what was their underlying reason, though, is a good question. Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus. Among the first leaders to address Rome's problems were brothers named Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus. Both served as tribunes. Tiberius, who took office in 133 BC, wanted to create farms for poor Romans. Those are the plebeians. The purpose of these farms was to keep the poor citizens happy and prevent rebellions. Tiberius wanted to create his farms on public land that wealthy citizens had illegally taken over. The public, of course, your plebeians, supported this idea, but the wealthy citizens opposed it. Conflict over the idea led to riots in the city, during which Tiberius was killed. There he is. Now, the book doesn't tell you how he was killed. He was killed, yes, by chairs. He was beaten with chairs. So, of course, wealthy people didn't want to give their farmland away. So why did Tiberius want to do this? Was he a good guy and wanted to help the plebeians out? Or did he just want to stop the mad rush of all those plebeians to rebel? So, anyways, let's get back to reading. A few years later, Gaius, his little brother, also tried to create new farms. Do you think the rich people change their mind and they're going to want to give their farms up? I don't think so. So he also began to sell food cheaply to Rome's poor citizens. Like his brother, Gaius angered many powerful Romans, and he was killed for his ideas. There he is. Now, again, they led you to believe that someone else killed him. He was ordered to be killed. Yes, the Republic ordered him to be killed, but before they got to him, Gaius ended up committing suicide. Let's move on. So, the violent deaths of the Gracchus brothers changed Roman politics. From that time on, people saw violence as a political weapon. They often attacked leaders with whom they disagreed. So here was a challenge that the Republic was going to have, trying to get it to that huge empire where they were going to control all the land they possibly could. They started seeing these plebeians, there's a lot of them. They can fight back. So there was one challenge the Republic had. Here's another challenge that happened. Marius and Sulla. In the late hundreds BC, another social change nearly led to the end of the Republic. In 107 BC, the Roman army desperately needed more troops. course, they need more troops to fight and get more land. In response, a council named Gaius Marius encouraged poor people to join the army. Before, only people who owned property had been allowed to join. As a result of this change, thousands of poor and unemployed citizens joined Rome's army. Remember, those poor people are called plebeians. Because Marius was a good general, his troops were more loyal to him than they were to Rome. The army's support gave Marius great political power. Following his example, other ambitious politicians also sought their army's support. You might be wondering, how did Marius get all their support? Why were they loyal to him? Well, what did Marius give them? Food and money. Remember, they were poor, but now he was paying them to fight for him. What has the Republic given them so far? Not much, but Gaius Marius gave them money and food. So now you can see those plebeians, they're getting more power. That's a problem for the Republic. So here, you may have been thinking previously, why were the landowners the only people who got to be soldiers? Here's one reason, and why the landowners were the only ones who could be soldiers. And another word for a Roman soldier was a legionnaire. And it's kind of a humorous video, so just take a watch and we'll discuss after.
My name's Stavus Maximus, and I'm a legionary in the Roman army. We train harder than any other army in history. We march 20 miles a day, build a whole fort, and then take it down again the next morning. I suppose the food's not bad, though you do have to pay for it. In fact, you have to pay for everything in the Roman army. Your food, your uniform, your weapons, even your own funeral. Nice. So I'd recommend staying to fight. The Roman army, be the best, or they'll kill you.
Okay, so why landowners? They had money, and the landowners could afford everything. You had to pay for your own food, your own equipment, your shield, your helmet, your sword. As they said, your own funeral. So that is why landowners were the only people in the army at the time. And another reason, which, they don't talk about much, but landowners had something to fight for. They wanted more land. They wanted to keep their power. They wanted to protect their land. If they were the strongest empire in the world, their land would be protected and no one else would come in and take it. Where the plebeians, they didn't have the land to try to defend. Okay. So we had Marius. They had Marius, who had the support of the plebeians. Well, here is another leader who wanted that same type of thing, that power. One such politician, Lucius Cornelius Sulla, became consul in 88 BC. Sulla soon came into conflict with Marius, a conflict that led to a civil war in Rome. A civil war is a war between citizens of the same country. In the end, Sulla defeated Marius. Remember, Marius had the support of the plebeians. He later named himself dictator and used his power to punish his enemies. So you can see how all these people wanted that power. So a civil war in a country could definitely cause another problem for the Republic. Still another challenge for the Republic on its way to becoming an empire, by a man named Spartacus. You can see my little picture there. There he is. He was a gladiator, a fighter in the Colosseum, usually a slave. So Spartacus was another challenge for the Republic. Not long after Sulla died, another crisis arose to challenge Rome's leaders. Thousands of slaves led by a former gladiator, Spartacus, rose up and demanded freedom. Spartacus was widely admired. Spartacus and his followers defeated an army sent to stop them and took over much of southern Italy. Eventually, though, Spartacus was killed in battle. Without his leadership, the revolt fell apart. Victorious, the Romans executed 6,000 rebellious slaves as an example to others who thought about rebelling. The rebellion was over, but the Republic's problems were not. Yikes. Okay, so